We're talking about one of the most unique cameras that I've held in my hands in the past 10 years. This is the Sigma BF. It looks like a concept camera, something that you would see in some sort of like tech fair of years past, but this is actually for sale. And it has been one of the most enjoyable cameras I've used in a while. It's fun, it's different, it's exciting, and it's for a new generation of photographers and content creators. It's not gonna be for everybody. But the joy of this is the simplicity and the beauty and the craftsmanship. And every time you look at this camera, you want to pick it up and you want to use it. And that's what a camera should do for you. And that's what the BF does. And we're going to walk it through its paces. We're going to have some fun here in Chinatown. And we're going to explore the beauty of the BF. Let's get down to it. So let's talk about the design of the Sigma BF. It is a one-piece block of aluminum, polished aluminum. It's not painted. So you can, I guess if you scratch this, you can get it polished out, but get it done by a professional. The same with the lens, by the way, for the silver lens. The only thing that is coated is this chrome insert on it. Now the black version is anodized. Black does show fingerprints a bit more than the silver, so I think a lot of people will opt for silver. But the silver stands out. I mean, how often do we get to see a silver camera that looks like this? I think the last time I did was the Zagato edition from Leica for their, I believe is their M10, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful camera and very reminiscent of the design on this. Of course, this has more angles to it. It is sharper around the edges, but there is contours where your palm fits right here on the side, the bottom part of the camera, and also in the thumb area here. So when you do hold it, you don't feel the sharpness, so that's a good thing. It is so well crafted. The best thing I can explain to you is this. This is at the level of Leica and Hasselblad in terms of its craftsmanship. And when people see images of it, they're wondering, okay, for $2,000 US, which is, it's kind of in that mid-tier range in terms of pricing. People are like, but is it really well made? And the answer is, oh yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And the moment you pick it up in your hand, and whenever I gave it to people to hold in their hands, they were in awe of how gorgeous this camera is. One thing you're gonna notice about the BF when you use it is actually how fast it is. Sigma has really done a fantastic job with their autofocusing. And that is one thing I think the L-mount Alliance cameras have really been needing for quite some time. Panasonic has done a great job with the S5 IIX and now the S1R2, which we're filming on right now. But Sigma is right up there with this BF. And being for a very unique camera system, if they were to make something more traditional, to fit some of their larger lenses, let's say their sports lenses or something like that, and use this kind of autofocusing algorithm, they would impress a lot of people. I mean, it is sticky on the face, on the eye, subject detection is right on. It is right up there with some of the best in my personal opinion. And for photography, for video, it's decent, but for photography, it is extremely fast. The UI will take some getting used to. I mean, as you can see, I'll be playing around with it, doing different crop factors. And even though I've been using it for the past number of weeks, there are times, because I was bouncing back and forth between cameras, that I have to relearn and understand what Sigma is doing with this. It's a very intuitive way of using the camera. It's simple, but sometimes the simplicity also throws you off a little bit. But that's part of the beauty of this camera. That's what makes it so fun to use. So, because it's so different. I think we have to appreciate the differences and understand them and embrace them versus saying, oh, I don't like this, it's not for me, blah, blah, blah. With any product that you have and you want to spend time with, you're going to have to learn its nuances. And the BF has a number of those, but once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun to shoot with. You know, there's something about this camera that just makes you want to shoot. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the size, maybe it's the speed of the camera, the colors that come out of this. We'll talk about them in just a bit because the color profiles in JPEG are absolutely gorgeous. Some of the best I've seen out of any camera system out there. And right now you can't see them in Lightroom because obviously the camera's not been released, so those profiles aren't in there yet. But man, those JPEGs just are beautiful and you can adjust them as you want. You can customize them along the way. But Sigma colors, I mean, since the FP are, or even previously for that, the Fovean sensors, as a lot of you know, are gorgeous. And this camera has that. Now it's a 24 megapixel sensor. So some people will say, well, I don't want 24 megapixels, I want something more. And yes, I wish it was more. To be frank with you, I wish it was. But these 24 megapixel images are very sharp, great dynamic range, great resolution to them. These I-series lenses, or contemporary lenses, if you call them that, are basically art glass in a more kind of a cinema design body. Beautiful, sharp, very well corrected, minimal to zero chromatic aberration, but yet with the colors that Sigma is producing out of this camera system, how these two combine, this is a really enjoyable experience. It really, really is. One of the great things with this camera for street photography is the focusing is so quick. I was just walking there, just snapping photos of people, and it just grabs them it just grabs the eye, the face. It's a very intuitive autofocusing system. And there's something that I was very pleasantly surprised about with this, because with a number of people in a crowd, it kind of knows what you're looking at based on how close someone is. And of course you can change that as you want, but it's very, very quick. And it also does animal detection as well. So I have it set to animal and people, and we could do it subject detection off. You have various different options inside this menu. So if you like to capture candid street photography especially, you're going to love what this camera delivers. It's been one of the most impressive things for me about this than anything else. I mean, again, if you use a Sony camera, a Nikon camera, a Canon camera, you're used to this autofocusing. But in the L-mount alliance from Leica, Panasonic, and now Sigma, this is really, it's very impressive. Very impressive. So how is the display in brighter situations? Because there is no EVF to this. You can't tilt the display. It is one angle only. Now, the display is decent. It goes up to a level 5 in its brightness. You can bring up and down in terms of the controls on this. I would say in very bright lights, you may find yourself struggling at times. Is it a deal breaker? No. The autofocusing kicks in. It's very intuitive. It's very fast, as I mentioned before. So that's going to save you. But if you are reliant on the display at times, well, you probably will have to, change your angle a little bit just to see it. But that's only in very bright situations. Where I'm at right now, this kind of lighting, it's fine. It's more than enough. I can see the image. I can see the person who's in focus or the subject in focus. I have no issues at all with that. It's probably only gonna be in, let's say, 1, 2 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock, bright daylight, where there's no clouds or no shade, where you may find yourself struggling a little bit. But you know what? There's always pros and cons to every camera system. But I think for a lot of us out there, we'll probably be around some sort of shade at least. One of the things you're gonna notice about this camera system, though, using it for a period of time as I'm walking around the streets of Chinatown, is that it does get a bit warm. Now this is as I mentioned, it's a one-piece solid block of aluminum. So, in terms of heat dissipation, it's gonna come through the body. So it's not like too warm to the touch, but it's something that you definitely do notice carrying around, especially if you go back and forth between photo and video, that you will notice the heat on this a bit more. Is it something that bothers me? No, just something to point out, because again, this camera system, there's a lot packed into this small compact body. And so you will feel a little bit of heat, but don't worry about it. It's fine. I can't cook eggs on it, at least not yet. All right, guys, as I'm looking over the footage here, I just want to touch base on some other features of the camera system that are of importance, especially when it comes to the shutter on this. It's an electronic shutter only. And that means that under certain lighting conditions, like fluorescent lighting or some artificial lighting, not all, you will see some banding coming in. Now, when you're looking through the display, the banding looks a lot worse than the image that you're taking. Now, for video, different story. But for photography, it's not that bad. Up to about 1/200 on a shutter speed, it's pretty decent. I was at this Chinese opera and I was capturing these performers, and they were using all fluorescent lighting. And I was good under 1/200. After that, it was pretty significant. So I just kind of toned it down and I was pretty okay. I mean, if I did see some banding, it looked more like shadows from the light. It wasn't so significant, but it's something to take note of. It's very similar to the FP and the FPL respectively. Maybe Sigma will add some anti-flicker reduction setting inside. Right now, there's nothing inside this camera system because it is kind of pre-production in a way. It's not available for the public, but if they do, hopefully they add that in because it would be nice to have. All right, another thing I want to talk about is video on this because it does video. It has H.265, H.264, L-Log, which is very interesting. You can do up to 6K. Obviously, if you're using electronic stabilization, you can't do 6K, only 4K. I will tell you, for some reason, the autofocusing in terms of video is a little bit, it's okay if you're standing still. If you're moving around, it kind of hunts a little bit. It's very,
nervous. That's the best way I could put it. So I would say this is a 70-30 camera. 70% photography, 30% video. I mean, the video quality is decent, but it's not there yet. Can this be fixed in firmware? I don't know. Again, as I mentioned, it's a pre-production camera essentially because it's not available to the public, but as it stands right now, this wouldn't be my A camera. This would probably be something I just use for clips if I just want to grab something on the go, okay? Now, one more thing in terms of video, audio, right? Because this has a USB-C port and they say it can accept mics. It can, but there is a caveat to this, and I found this out by asking, and Sigma did give me an answer to this. It only accepts 16-bit, not 24-bit. So mics like the DJI Mic Mini, the Mic 2, the Sennheiser Profile Wireless, I believe some of the new Hollyland mics as well, are 24-bit only and beyond that. The Rode Wireless Go, Rode Wireless Go 2, and the Rode Wireless Me, I believe, are 16-bit and 24-bit compatible because I tried them with this and it does work. It does recognize it. However, it's a USB-C cable that dangles off the side and it doesn't really work that well. There was one gentleman on YouTube that was able to get his DJI Mic 2 to work. He said he had a 3.5 USB-C cable. I bought the recent Apple one. It only recognizes it as a headphone, so I don't know what cable he bought, but I guess you can find it on Amazon or some camera shop out there. I went to my local camera shops. Nobody had these things. They're very hard to find. So yeah, if you want to use a mic to this, you're going to have to, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Now, Sigma did say in a future firmware update, they will give some more information on the display that your mic is compatible or not compatible. Right now, it just doesn't show you anything, but they said they will address that in future firmware update. Another thing we have to talk about is the internal storage on this camera. I'm a big fan of this. I know some people, they like to have an SD card or a CF Express card, and they rather have something separate, but I'll tell you what, these SSD drives are very robust. And the fact that you have so much storage in this camera at 24 megapixels, you don't need to worry. And the great thing what Sigma's done with this is the way that it mounts to your desktop or to your phone respectively. It shows up as a drive, and then all the images they're organized by the date that you've taken them. So you'll see smaller files inside of that by the date, and then you can just see your images there. It is so intuitive and so easy. There's no multi-step process like the other camera systems do out there, Leica, you know what I mean, with the Leica M's. It could be a bit simpler for that way, but I'm just saying it's really well done. So Sigma, hats off to you for doing that. And yeah, I mean, I can put this onto my iPhone and I can grab images and load them up like that. So with that, guys, that's it for some of the features on this. We're gonna go back to talking about lenses, trying different Sigma lenses and different lenses altogether, and just enjoy the experience with the BF. Enjoy.
So let's talk about the lenses on this for a second, because there's a little bit of confusion in terms of Sigma's lineup here. There's the contemporary lineup, there's the I series, there's art, and there's sports. Now the I series and contemporary are sort of more merged into one under like one umbrella, so to speak. This is considered an I series lens. It is art glass in a more sort of cinema designed outer body. It is different than the contemporary lineup from Sigma, which is more plastic in feel, more budget friendly. These are still very budget friendly for the performance that you get, but these do have art glass inside of them, so keep that in mind. Now, one of the differences between this and the art series is that the weather sealing probably isn't as robust as you would get in the art glass. That's one thing, but outside of that though, the optics, the image quality is like using a Sigma art lens. So again, it's confusing. Hope Sigma sort of defines this a little bit more as this goes on, because a lot of people are confused by it. So it is contemporary, but this is the I series. One of the most enjoyable things about this camera is using the different aspect ratios inside of this. Now, looking at it right now, I have 21:9 that I'm using currently, which just gives you that sort of that X-pan look, but you can adjust it as you want. I mean, you can go to 3:2 A size, 1:1, 4:3. I mean, you have a lot of options in this. And it makes photography fun. Now, if you're shooting in RAW and JPEG, the JPEG will have the crop baked into it, but the RAW will not. So you're safe on that. And by the way, the RAWs are DNG files, so that's a lot easier, and you don't have to worry about having a proprietary raw files so you can actually access these files right away in Lightroom, Capture One, or whatever software that you're using. But again, it's these subtle things that make photography fun with this camera system. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna change it out, try some other lenses, and see how this performs using other Sigma lenses and also lens from another L-mount partner. Let's see how it goes. So what is it like to use the BF with larger lenses? Well, I have it here with the 51.2. Now, you're predominantly gonna balance the camera and the lens with, holding the lens itself here, and you just support the camera in the back of it. And it does add some nice stabilization to it because there's a bit more weight to it, as you see. So it's very easy to capture photos here. Very intuitive. I have tried it with the Leica 90-280, which is a massive lens on this. This is pretty much a very expensive body cap, or lens cap, I should say, but it does work, and it works relatively well. But keep in mind that you're going to balance the camera with holding the lens predominantly, and you just rest your hand on the camera to take photos. But as you're seeing here, it does the job. So with all this said, what are some of the cons on using this camera system? And I guess some of the cons are it's gonna be a learning curve to this. The menu system doesn't have presets, so you can't save your favorites. Hopefully this does come in a future firmware update because it already has a number 1 there for your one profile, so you'd think that there'll be multiple profiles in the future. Another thing is also letting us know in terms of the audio, what mics work with this and what doesn't. So if you're a Rode user, as I mentioned, you're gonna be good, but DJI and other brands out there that are 24-bit, you're not gonna be able to work with that, okay? Because Rode is 24-bit, but it also is backwards compatible to 16-bit as well. So keep that in mind. The battery life on this is not gonna be the best. You're gonna wanna get a couple batteries on this. Now, that's not a deal breaker, but it is something to take note of that you at least wanna get 1 or 2 or maybe 3 more extras, especially if you wanna take this out all day with yourself. Now, it would be great to have a grip with this, especially for longer lenses. As I mentioned, you can balance the camera and the lens by holding it predominantly with the lens here, but having some sort of grip would be absolutely awesome. Now, in terms of straps, you are going to be reliant on the wrist strap right here unless somebody makes a cage or something to allow for a neck strap. But besides that though, the BF is a camera system that you actually need to really experience and take some time with. It's not gonna happen overnight. This is like using a Leica M camera for the first time. Using a rangefinder camera, it takes a lot of practice and it can be frustrating in the beginning, but once you understand how to work with that camera, you enjoy shooting with a rangefinder. And that concept applies here for the Sigma BF. But for those that use a smartphone to capture the world around you and use a display only, you're gonna be at home with this camera system. And we're seeing other cameras out there from Sony and Lumix respectively without EVFs, and people are enjoying them. So that's the BF. Beautiful foolishness, as Sigma calls it, but I like to call it a peek into the future of photography and content creation. And this camera it's absolutely beautiful. By the way, now some of you are thinking, Bobby, what about manual focus lenses on this? How good is it? That's coming up in a second video very, very soon. With that, guys, take care, like, subscribe, appreciate the support, and I'll chat to you all in maybe a couple days' time. Bye.